Hello, everybody. Welcome to Gents Making Sense. We're going to do another episode this week. What's up, Mr. Sulayman?
What's up, man? How's it going?
All right. Once again, for all those that we haven't seen this year, Happy New Year. And we're excited for our third season. And like I said, we're doing some things that are a little different. We're going to have guests this year and everything. And we're looking for it. Matter of fact, we'll probably have a guest next week.
Yeah, next week.
So look forward to it. Go ahead and tell me your name so I don't mess it up.
Yeah, no problem. His name is Mark Edwards, or Lieutenant Commander, retired Mark Edwards. We had him on before. Great conversation about our community, and we're looking forward to having him back on. He's been busy at the office, but he's willing to come back on. So it's going to be a good show. Don't forget to check us out next week too.
Okay, we're good. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna do some things a little different. Remember, Gents Making Sense YouTube at Gents Making Sense. We put them out there every week. Our full episode is normally out by Thursday, Friday morning. Our shorts follow soon afterwards, and just give it a good look and everything. We also have it on Spoutable at Gents MS, and please continue to leave remarks, your likes. Please hit that like button and subscribe. That's the most important thing. Make sure you subscribe. You like our content. It'll be out there. And, we're going to put the content out there that we like to talk about. And it's Black issues for the most part, as seen by our view. And once again, let's support our Black businesses. Supplement, a water bottle company that put out nice water bottles and everything. Power in Black, they just have merchandise, hoodies, t-shirts, all those things like that. Just try to support those businesses and everything. Actively Black, another one we like to talk about. Active wear that compete with Adidas and Nike. If you get a chance to go on YouTube, look them up. The CEO and the founder of this business put out a apology for the Christmas season. Evidently, they got real busy during the Christmas season. They fulfilled, I think it was 98% of their orders or 90% of their orders. Whatever it was, he apologized to the percentage of people that they didn't get the orders in on time. And he explained how terrorists have affected the smaller businesses. Adidas and Nike can power through things like terrorists and everything. But small Black businesses like his, they suffered during the holiday. They couldn't get all their orders in. He said, that's no excuse because they're a business and they wanted to fulfill the orders like they thought they could. So I really appreciate the fact that he did come on air and apologize for that. Okay, so let's get into this week's episode. We've been talking about a lot of different things. The main thing we talked about at the end of last year and the beginning of this year is, why did we start this podcast? Why are we doing what we're doing? And I want to start out with this monologue. Okay, I want to read it so I don't mess it up. Black men must discuss today's pressing issues because our voices are blueprint for our communities, survival, healing, and evolution. When we speak, we reclaim our narrative, confront our challenges, and shape the future we want to see. That's the core of what we're doing with this podcast and everything. We want to make sure we do those following things. We reclaim our narrative, we confront our challenges, and we set the shape for our future. We want to do that. And in this episode, we're going to talk about just that, why our voices matter, why Black men, the truth and today's pressing issues in the Black community matters. We're going to weigh in on what happens if we're silenced, the cost of not speaking, the power of naming what we face, and the idea that our conversation are our inheritance and everything. So let's get it started with the history and the context of why silence was forced on us. So we've been forced to be silent, even during slavery. So let's talk about that. Starting with beginning. Talk about how we as black men were forced to be silent and not speak up, and we were told to turn the other cheek and everything.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory when you talk in bondage. Black men did not have the ability to speak up, or you could have been killed or punished, or whatever they decided to do at that point. So being silent, being unnoticed, not sticking out was a survival tactic that black men used during oppression. Once slavery ended, and you had the black laws and the Jim Crow laws, it was essentially the same thing, except for that our ancestors weren't owned at that time or purchased by somebody. But you had people like the Klan and white supremacy in this country, which came down hard on people that spoke up. We have a long list of black leaders over the last hundred and some years that had their lives taken because they spoke up. Obviously the more popular ones are Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, but you got Medgar Evers, and lots of other people like that that were murdered because they spoke up and wanted certain rights. So the slavery period was more about just bondage and just having pure power over African American men. And then, Jim Crow up until, pretty much the early 60s was the same thing where the judicial system wouldn't support you. Law enforcement was on that side as well. So there wasn't a lot of stuff that black men could do. I think moving along and, probably from the mid 60s forward, our voice is becoming stronger. Really, in the 2000s, has become extremely strong and powerful, and we need to continue to do that.
Okay, good, good, good. Okay, so and that became a coping mechanism also. And the crazy thing about that is in the workplace today, in
Yeah,
the workplace in particular, you still see it.
sure.
You still see it. Black men. I asked a gentleman today, no names called and everything. There's a young black brother that's going through some things at work, and they're trying to railroad him. And I asked this older black man, what's going on with our young brother? He shut up, got quiet, didn't say nothing, changed the subject. I'm like, you acting like a slave right now, man. You can't talk about you you got 30, 40 years in on the job. Why can't you talk? What they gonna do to you?
Yeah, I had a similar situation, but ours went a different way. I mean, I had a colleague of mine who had this young brother in the office that he was struggling, and I think it was more of kind of where he came from and didn't really know how to maneuver in a professional environment, professional organization. And he started, people are against me, they don't want me to be successful, they're not going to give me opportunity, that type of talk. So my friend came to me and said, "Hey, you're in a decent spot. Would you mind talking to this young dude and kind of trying to help him, get a little bit better prepared and function and deal with work?"
Mhm.
And I said, "Yeah, no problem." So I worked with him and probably for about 3 months, and a position came up that he was interested in, that he didn't get last time, but he was interested in the position. And I walked him through the process, how kind of the interviews are going to be, how you handle yourself, the way you should look, how you should speak, to get the position. And fortunately, he ended up getting hired for the position. And it was a promotion for him. And it changed his attitude completely because now he realizes that I can be successful, that I'm valuable. And I think that that's what a lot of our young folks don't necessarily have is that they come into work and they're so used to dealing with things on the outside differently than what they have to do when they come on the inside. I mean, it doesn't work out for them, so they get frustrated and eventually quit or don't get promoted. So I was happy to be able to show him a different way. I didn't do anything other than just giving him the same knowledge that was provided to me, but he took that knowledge, went into the interview, got the job, and he's doing really well. I'm in that position.
And that's enough, man. You might not think that's not anything. Even the smallest push or the smallest um, push up the ladder can help anybody. And it's sad that we talk about that in the past, but it's still happening today. the silence, black men being silenced in the
Sure.
workplace in particular. And it's sad that that's happening today. So let's talk about modern reality, why we speak now.
Sure.
Here's a couple of things and why we speak now, reasons why we speak now: mental health, emotional isolation, policing and systematic inequalities, economic instability, generational wealth gaps, healthcare disparity, shift in masculinity, fatherhood and relationships, media narratives that misrepresent or flatten flatten black men. Those are all hard hitters, and those are all our reality today. They really are, and we're gonna talk about a couple of them together, and then we're gonna kind of isolate one or two of them because a lot of them go together, like mental health, emotional isolation, and healthcare disparity. Those type things go together. Policing and systematic inequality. We can beat that to a dead horse. We know what happens in the black community, even with our black police officers. When they see us in these communities, driving while black is still a thing. It
Sure.
hasn't gone away.
Sure.
And we have to carry ourselves in a certain way. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon because of the way black males are seen as being forceful and violent for the most part. So let's talk about mental health, emotional isolation, and healthcare because those go together. And then we'll talk about fatherhood, masculinity, and the media. So we talked a little bit just a few minutes ago about that and how isolating yourself in the workplace and other places can mess with your mental and everything. And can you give me examples or how you feel this has been a big deal when it comes down to the black male?
Yeah, I mean, I think, from a professional standpoint, I mean,
Yes.
I think all, not all, I'll say the majority of young black men when we come into the workforce, and I was the same way, is that, sometimes people take things personally. That so and so is not giving me a job, or so and so is not treating me right, and they take it personal, and then the way they react is in a personal way, and which sometimes comes across as being aggressive, or mad at somebody, or kind of resorting your stepping back and not engaging. And that's not beneficial in the professional world. That's not going to get you anything. It's going to push people away from it. And I think what we need to do is to teach our young men that, when you're talking about business, it's all business. It's not personal. It's all business. Don't take it personal. The way you react to them and the way that you deal with it is you deal with them in a professional and a business way. That's how you become successful. Document everything that you think may be going on that you don't like or you think is unusual. Document it. So when you decide to either go and tell someone, you can go in and say, here's my point by point by point by point. Secondly, learn your job, learn your position, learn everything about what it is that you're doing so that you're the best person to do that job. Preparing yourself. I always say that there's nothing worse than going into a conversation and not being prepared. So make sure that you know everything as the worker. Find a mentor, find somebody that is in a position that you are interested in and go and talk to them, work with them. Say, hey, can you teach me how you did that? Can you teach me how the process to think through this project and to get it done? Hey, I want to be a project manager. Okay, what courses do I need to take? What classes do I need to take in order to be a project manager? And build yourself up, make yourself valuable. People who are valuable to the organization, to the agency, to the company, those people don't get laid off. Those people don't lose their jobs. If you're valuable, you can do more than one thing, then you are potentially somebody that they want to keep. You have value to the organization. So that's what I talk to some of these young brothers about. Yes, if we come into work, do we have history that we're bringing with us? Absolutely. But it has no place in where you work, and you need to you need to leave that at the door and come in with a different attitude, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And all this affects our mental and everything.
Yeah.
Go get checked too. If you're struggling, go get checked. There's nothing wrong with getting checked out. Your mental health is very important. And you can't help your family unless you help yourself. We're
Yeah.
gonna shift into
Before you
go
go,
ahead.
let me just follow up with that really quick, and that is, um, I don't understand this amongst our community. Not today with this taboo with going and getting help and talking to somebody. Sometimes you need to go in and just get level set. I do that once, maybe twice a year with, with a therapist. Just go in and level set myself to make sure there aren't any issues that are coming up that I might not be dealing with. You need to do that. If your insurance company provides that to you for a free perspective, you need to do that. Go in and see a therapist or a psychologist and say, hey, I just wanted to come in and get myself a tune up just to make sure that I'm good to go so that if something is bothering you, that it doesn't become something that's a little bit more.
Exactly. I'm glad you stopped me on that point because I kind of glossed over it real quick. And I don't know why, because I just went through something that caused me to have to go do that, with
Hmm.
prostate cancer and everything. People say, "Are you in pain with prostate cancer?" And I said, "No, I felt no pain. The only pain I felt is when I had surgery. But other than that, it's psychological. Prostate cancer will mess with your mental more than anything else. And you gotta sit down and talk to somebody about it.
Yep.
Sometimes your family is just not enough because now you're unloading your pressures and how you feel on them. Even though you need to talk to them about how you're feeling, you need a professional that can help you sort out these feelings and help you decide what's reality and what you're really making up in your mind. Because situations like that in particular, and I can only speak about that because that's what made me see a therapist once a month for the last year or so. So that I can, because once your mental gets bad, everything else stops. You can't be a productive individual if your mental is not good. So yeah, go. Let's not
I was
gloss over that. Yeah,
just going to say that I
yeah,
agree with you on that,
yeah.
and because these diseases out here, cancer, any type of cancer you're talking about, prostate cancer or colon cancer, or type of cancer you have. As a man, it's difficult because I mean we're brought up in this country where men are supposed to be, uh, nothing can hurt us. You're supposed to be the super strong superhero, and when that you get those diagnoses, and your doctor essentially tells you, look, this is what we have to do, this is going to kill you or take you away if you don't do this. That's mentally challenging to us and it's hard to take. So
Mhm,
thank you for saying that. People need to go and talk to somebody when they get diagnoses like that or they find out something is difficult. Don't be
mhm,
ashamed to go in and talk to somebody outside
mhm.
of the situation to help you get better.
Exactly, exactly, and that goes directly into our next subject, the shifting in masculinity, fatherhood, and relationships and everything. The shifting in masculinity ties in with that is because a lot of men die, black men in particular, die of prostate cancer because they think that it takes their masculinity from them and everything. Yes, it's brutal, and yes, it will take a certain part of your masculinity, especially if you have the surgery, if you have a prostatectomy, where they remove your prostate. You are no longer you will no longer be able to have kids. So that takes a part of your masculinity away from you. Yes, it hurts you sometimes as far as being sexually active. It leads to ED and everything else. But that comes back. What I'm tell you what don't come back is you if you die.
Right.
So the choice is clear to me. When you have these diagnoses, like you said, you got to make the right decision. Okay, so let's go into fatherhood and relationship. We talked about the shifting in masculinity. We got a lot of fatherless homes in America, and especially in the Black community. There's a lot of conversation on why this is. I don't have the answer. I can give you ideas on why I think it happens. But that's just my opinion. But we as men, we be good fathers. We got to be present, and we have to set good examples for our kids and everything. So let's talk about that a little bit. The Black community and fatherhood.
Man, you gonna get me in trouble here,
Yeah,
man.
I know, but that's what we're here for,
Yeah,
to,
no,
bring up the subject.
I agree. I mean, I think that I mean, again, I don't have all the solutions, but I think that part of the solution is very it's very simple. Marry before you care. That's the
Yeah,
bottom line.
yeah,
Marry before you care. There's no reason whatsoever for you to get pregnant or for a man to impregnate a woman before you marry her. because that child is a lifelong commitment.
The gift that keeps giving.
Right. Once you have that child is going to always be your bloodline. Is going to always be your son or your daughter. If you marry somebody and the situation gets ridiculous where you can't focus and you can't work together, you can end that marriage. And then you both can walk away and potentially find someone else. And I'm not advocating for divorce. I'm just saying that when in reference to a child and marriage can be broken, that that child cannot. So marry before you have a child. If this woman is means enough to you to where you're going to allow her to bring your DNA into the next generation, then you can go down to the courthouse, pay the $300 cost, and marry her before she has that child. Ladies, if this guy is a guy that you're willing to put your life in line for, because people still do die when they have children, have him go down to the courthouse and marry you so that you guys are a couple, that you're married, you have this child. We know from stats that being married, a mother, excuse me, and a father in the relationship means the child has a better chance of being successful.
There
So
you go.
marry before you carry is what I say. Secondly, I would say that men that are in relationships where they aren't married and they impregnate a woman and she ends up having that child, you need to be part of that child's life, whatever that means. I mean, you need to drop your pride, go and sit down and talk to that young lady. Y'all figure something out. You don't always have to go to the courts to figure it out. You can go and talk to her and figure out what she needs in order to ensure that that child has everything financially that they need. And you need to go to her house and make sure that you're present in that child's life so that child knows who their father is. Ladies, it doesn't help to take the dad outside of the relationship. That daughter or that son is at some point in their life going to want to know who their father is. They don't want to know who birthed them, who the other half of them is. So whatever personal feelings you have towards that man, you had a child with him, so you got to let that go. It's no longer about you, it's about the child. So y'all need to
Exactly.
drop whatever issues you have and raise that child together. I know I said a lot of stuff there, but that's just the reality.
Yeah.
We as black men have to be adults, and our black women need to be adult women. You can't say it's all the guys' fault. You know, why are all the guys
Mhm.
out impregnating women? Well,
Mhm.
why are all the women letting these
Yeah.
guys impregnate them?
Yeah. Exactly.
So we both as a community need to get better on our choices. And then if I could say one more thing, um, you know, we need to men determine who's a good guy. The community, black men as a community, we determine that who the right dude is. And if you remember when we were all young, we knew who the drug dealers were. We knew who the knuckleheads were. We knew who the guys were going around getting everybody pregnant. We told our kids to stay away from them.
Mhm.
And we need to do that now. So if black men are in the households, the daughters can come to dad and say, "Hey, I'm bringing Suleiman over," and dad would be like, "Nah, no, that's not gonna happen."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I
I
got
know when I got married, and I'm
you.
sure
Mhm.
you were the same way.
Mhm.
Is when I talked to my wife's father, look, that was a serious conversation.
Mhm.
And that wasn't no conversation where it's like, hey, laughing and joking, and hey, here's a drink. No, it wasn't no conversation. It's like, what
Mhm.
are your intentions with my daughter? And how do you plan to take care of her? What are you going to do, when you get out of college, or what are you going to do when you get out of the military? How are you going to take care of her and your daughter? So, yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, that and what I heard and everything that you said, the most important thing is communication.
Hmm.
We got to be able to communicate,
Yep.
and we got to be able to communicate with our kids, with our spouses, and we got to be the leader of our household. That dynamic got to come back into play,
Hmm.
be more prevalent. And to tie a bow around this section, it's the media narrative that carry the whole thing that we just got through talking about.
Yep.
That everything that we just got through talking about, the media just piles on with it. Whatever myth it is, they bring it out and they talk
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Very rarely do they talk about the good things and stuff. So,
Yeah. And from the media perspective, I mean, and you guys have heard me say this for almost 3 years, and I don't hold anything back when it comes to the media. But I would also say that we control our image. We can control our image by the way that we present ourselves. You don't have to have that mic thrown in your face. You don't have to say anything. You can walk away. We control the way that we walk out of our house. I know my grandparents, we're from a different generation, used to ensure you had on clean underwear because you never knew what was going to happen, right?
Yes,
I
sirree.
say the
Yeah.
same thing with when you go out of the house. How do you look when you're driving in your car? And I say this to young brothers all the time. Why are you driving dirty? Meaning that
Mhm,
you don't have insurance or your driver's license not up to
mhm,
date or
mhm.
your car's got all type of safety problems on it to cause them to stop you. So if you give somebody a reason to bother you, they're going to do it. So think about the way that you dress. Think about the way that you speak. Think about the way that you act when you're out in public.
Mhm.
Because if the media doesn't have uh, a character of you to throw out to the rest of the world, then you're going to start seeing a better image of us coming out in the media.
That's exactly right. Driving dirty is one of them. And I used to, for the life of me, I couldn't understand why I had to have clean drawers all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
You take a bath, you change your underwear, but then they check it again. You got clean drawers on, you get ready to go out.
yeah.
You never know when there's
Wash the face,
yeah.
brush your teeth, comb your hair. I mean, I didn't come from a rich family, but the
But those were the basics.
clothes that I had were clean when I left the
Yeah.
house, and I looked presentable.
Exactly. Those were the basic. That's all we're asking, the basic. I really can't stand when I see a young man walking around with his pants below his behind. I just can't understand it. And it gets on my nerves. And I work in a school system where I have to tell these guys every few minutes, please
Pull your
pull up
pants
your
up, son.
pants. I don't wanna see your drawers. I hope your drawers are clean. That's where we go into that system, you know? So it's a yeah, yeah, it's a different world,
Well,
and
it's
we need to step up, and we need to tell these young brothers why they need to do these things that we're talking about today. And that gets us into our next, segment where we talk about conversations, what happens when we have these conversations. And we've already talked about this, but we'll go over it and we'll reiterate some of it. Speaking creates emotional safety. It also creates a community strategy. It challenges stereotypes that we just got through talking about. Models vulnerability for younger men, strengthens family and relationships, and turns pain into purpose. We talked about all of this just a few minutes ago. I want I want to I want to personally talk about pain into purpose because we're going through a lot of pain right now. A lot of people might not understand the pain that we're going through right now, but by this country suffering and going in the direction that it's going in right now, is causing us a lot of pain. If you notice, food prices ain't going down at all. Gas prices going down because we basically stole oil from another country, and the prices are down because of futures. It ain't because it's gotten any better. They just see a better future for it, so the prices go down. That's how the market works sometimes. So there's a lot of pain out. There's a lot of pain out there, but we as brothers have to turn that pain into purpose. We have to help the community. We have to be a part of the community. We have to go to these churches, mosques, synagogues, whatever you go to. We need to go there and we need to be a part of the community. We need to give back to the community. We need to give back to young brothers wherever we can to mentor. And mentor don't mean you got to go and join a program. You can do like you said at your job. It's a young brother you saw that y'all talked about, and you say, "Hey, young brother, come here and let me take you under your wing." And you do it. It ain't gotta be nothing. It don't have to be anything that's that or that's in a program or nothing like that. It's just you walking down the street in a proud way, carrying yourself in a positive light. That in itself is mentoring. That in itself is mentoring. So, is it any of those that we talked about just then that stick out to you that you want to talk about on that?
Yeah, I'll just jump on the back of what you said. And then I think one of the things that we need to get better at in our community, and this is not a difficult thing, and that is, a lot of times, man, we're very informal with each other. And I think that's something that has caused some problems within our community. I mean, when you're talking, I remember when, I mean, I'm 56 years old now. And
Mhm.
even some of the young, not young, but even some of the parents that my friends, you're still here on earth with us. I don't talk inform them. I'm an adult and I've been an adult for 30 something years, but they are still Mr. and Mrs. to me. I know all of my
Good point.
friends' parents' first name, but I have never, and I will never call them by their first name. And you get sometimes I think online content and stuff like that and social media has changed, but you got 20, 22, 23-year-old young folks talking to 50 something year old men like we're boys, like we grew up together. And we need to stop that in our community because it's not just about education. The fact that I'm 30 years older than you mean I have 30 years more experience than you have. So I can talk to you about things that are going on in the country, things that you're dealing with, and give you some guidance. You don't have to do it, but you could hear from somebody that's got 3 decades more of experience on it. So I would really like to see, like I said, is us to be stop being so informal with each other and stop trying to be, so cool. I mean, we got, 40 and 50-year-old dudes walking around trying to look like they're 20 years old.
Exactly.
And instead of looking like the adult that you are.
Mhm.
I think I gave an example a couple of years ago. I go to the mall and you walk around the mall, and sometimes I look and I can't tell the difference between the dad and the son
Yeah.
by the way that they're dressed. And that doesn't help us because you're not preparing that son for what he's going to have to deal with when he goes into the workforce. So
Exactly.
stop being so informal with each other. Stop talking to each other in such a slang language. You're an adult. And I look at when my grandfather was young. I mean, not young, but in his 50s. And I say, am I acting like my grandfather acted when he was 50 something? Am I acting that way? Or am I acting like somebody who's 20 years old? And that's the problem.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point and everything. In our when I was teaching school, high school, we called that soft skill, teaching soft skills. Yes, sir. No, sir. Thank you. May I? Just things like that. You'll be surprised where that gets you and everything. Let's talk about what's going on anyway. We got the answers.
Mhm.
We just got to follow through because the conversation, these things are happening in barbershops. Why do you think politicians are going to barbershops now? If you notice, most of all the politicians that are serious about being elected are trying to get into black barbershops to talk to
Sure,
people,
sure.
because these conversations are happening. You're having group chats in communities and stuff. You got black men naturally analyzing politics, sports, culture, and life. We do that all the time. Look at our chat group. Our chat group is man, I learn a lot on our chat group. Some of it's silly, some of it's crazy, but I learn stuff, you know what I'm saying? And we talk about politics and everything. The podcast that we got here, what we're doing, bringing this in the full circle, is trying to bring some of that barbershop talk and kind of merge it with real world stuff that's going on right now so that our listeners can understand it from a black perspective. And I think that's the best I can put it right there. And I'll let you close this out for us, and then we'll go to on another note.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. But I think that it's this is layered and it's layered for our community. Is there are very good things going on in our community, but we don't have the sound horn or the
Megaphone or whatever.
megaphone or
Yeah,
foghorn
yeah.
to put the better parts of our community out there. So there's
Mhm.
layers. One, we got to get a better way of putting our community out there. We need to get a lot of these people who are just doing podcasts because they want money. They want to, people like to see controversy. They say things, do things that are controversial because the online presence will provide them with funds. We need to get away from that and start showing people that are out there doing the right thing. Like schools, young schools where young brothers and sisters are graduating and doing good things out in the public. We need a bigger megaphone to get that information out. And then secondly, I think that, and this is controversial, but I think we need to start shunning people in our community that don't do and say things that are beneficial to our community. Every other community does that. Our community doesn't. People, I have no problem with you going out and being whoever you want to be and saying whatever you want to say, but you don't get a welcome back in our community if you're going to do that. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to feel the same, but things like some of the people we talked about over the last couple of weeks, the things that they've done, and then they think after that's over, that you can come back to the community and be part of the community. We need to stop that. We need to start shunning these people and let them know that go stay with them if that's what you want to do, but you're not going to throw out bad stuff about us and degrade us and then think you're going to come back to our community.
Yeah. Good. Good. So, and you got different genres that can do that. The podcast thing is, like I said, is a big deal right now. And we got one podcast called Native Land Podcast. It features a couple of uh commentators like Angela Rye, Tiffany Cross,
Uh-huh.
and Andrew Gillum, and I think the congressman, the former state senator from South Carolina.
Yeah,
I
yeah, I know you're talking
can't
about.
remember
I
his
read his
name.
books. I can't think
Yeah,
anything about.
he's gonna be up there from now. Those are the podcasts that I look at and talk about for with people sometimes, because they bring about conversation that really means something. You know what I'm saying? And
Uh-huh.
that's what we want to be, is a podcast that bring about conversation that means something. You can like us, you can hate us, you can say that what we're talking about don't make no sense, or you can say we don't know what we're talking about. But what we want you to do is talk.
Yep.
We want conversation. So let's keep that going. So let's hear it for on another note this week. So you tell me what you got on another note this week and
Yeah, I think this will be
everything.
pretty quick. But on another note, you know, uh, there's the guy that did the Dilbert cartoons, Scott Adams, passed away from cancer. It's interesting because I saw his his video when he you know came out and talking about he hates black people and telling all white people to move away from black people and all this ridiculous nonsense because he doesn't know how to read a survey. He comes out and the real Scott Adams comes out. First of all, I doesn't bother me at all that he's dead. I mean, you have opportunity to meet his maker and explain his actions. But I just find it amazing that people like that who uh, his entire life as a cartoonist, and there were a lot of black people that were buying and reading your cartoons, a lot. And it's always funny when you see people like that, racists, who want to swipe the whole black community with one brush, and say that because a couple have done something bad, or a small percentage of us have done something bad, that the whole community is that way. And you want to disengage yourself from the entire community. Imagine if black people did that when it came to white people in America, enslaving of people, Jim Crow laws, systematic racism. If we took the whole white community in the United States and said, because a small percentage of you did that, I'm not going to deal with you anymore. Scott Adams, probably over the last 40 years, hasn't lived in any community, whether it's a white community or a black community or a Spanish community or whatever, where crime was high. He's never lived in those communities. So what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I mean, we talked about this before, where if you crime doesn't just happen in low income black communities, it happens in low income white communities, low income Spanish communities, low income Asian communities. It's a economic issue. It's not a color issue. So to say that all black people hate you, because that's what he said, all black people hate white people, is ridiculous. The notion is absolutely ridiculous. But my final point is we should keep our eyes open, stay woke, because people like Scott Adams. For 30, 40 years, this guy's been writing these cartoons and you ain't heard nothing. As long as he's making the money, he had no problems. He'd keep all his racist views to himself. But then towards the end of his life, now all of a sudden he comes out and black people are bad. Right? So
Yeah.
stay woke, people, and recognize that a lot of the folks that you're looking at right now today have feelings about you that you need to evaluate. You need to determine whether I want to spend my money with them, whether I want to go and see them, whether I want to support their projects. Because Scott Adams is a prime example of that and what happens in this country. So I'll
Gotcha.
end it with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. That's a good note. And on another note for me, I want to talk about how history always repeat itself if you don't watch out. I find it kind of rich that our country, the United States of America, is going over, sending the vice president and the secretary of state to talk to a country about taking over a country that don't want us. And it's a country of indigenous people and stuff. We've heard that one before, where we sail over the water and find a country. We discover a country that already have indigenous people on it.
So
So now we flying over to a country and landing and saying, we want your country. To me, that's rich.
yeah, it is.
And history repeating itself once again.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
it's the gall of it all. How can we be, I don't know what you call it. How can we be so crazy to think that these people want us, like, want us, let's go to America. They already said, we don't even want Denmark, but we got Denmark.
Yeah,
And if we had to choose between the two, guess what? We'll keep Denmark.
yeah, they
You
don't
know,
want
they don't want no parts of us. And then the other part, now I'll end with this, is how crazy is it that NATO, Germany, and other NATO countries are sending troops to Greenland so that they can show a military presence on that island? Another NATO country, Denmark. That's
it.
crazy. That's
It's,
crazy.
it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
And we're walking around America like everything is happy. It's whoop de doo, whoop de doo, whoop de doo. This is crazy.
Insanity.
That's what it is. That's what it is. And I can't say nothing else about it. Man, I enjoyed the show tonight.
Yes, sir.
Another good show. You know, I just love these kind of shows and everything. So we're going to give ourselves a hand clap. We're going to give ourselves a hand clap today and everything. Appreciate it and everything. We look forward to next week. Tell them once again who we're going to have here.
Yeah, I think we're going to have Lieutenant Colonel, retired Lieutenant Colonel Mark Edwards, a good friend of mine, colleague of mine. We're going to have a good conversation. So look forward to when the video comes out.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Well, good. Thank y'all once again. Keep subscribing, keep liking, and keep viewing. See y'all the next time, okay?